On stage, under the blinding glare of a spotlight, my wife, Isabella, stood at the podium, her smile as brilliant and polished as the crystal award in her hands. She was accepting the Entrepreneur of the Year award for our company, Ether Solutions. Our success is built on partnership, she was saying, her voice echoing through the ballroom. She looked directly at me, seated at our table. And no one is a better partner than my husband, Alex. Without his late nights and brilliant mind, none of this would be possible. The crowd of 500 erupted in applause. I raised my glass, the smile on my face feeling like it was carved from stone. Across the table, our lead investor, Robert, gave me a hearty thumbs up. It was a perfect picture of success and marital harmony. A complete and utter lie. I'm Alex, 38. Isabella and I started Ether Solutions in our garage 8 years ago. I was the tech visionary, the architect of our proprietary software. She was the charismatic face, the sales genius who could charm investors out of their socks. We were a perfect team. I handled the code, she handled the cash flow. I trusted her implicitly. I was the quiet, steady engine, and she was the dazzling hood ornament. I loved watching her shine. She finished her speech to a standing ovation and floated back to our table, kissing me on the cheek. Her perfume, a scent I'd chosen for her last birthday, smelled like betrayal. Was I okay? She whispered, her eyes sparkling. You were perfect, I said, my voice even. That's when our business lawyer, David, who also happened to be Isabella's childhood friend, approached the table. He leaned in, not to congratulate me, but to kiss Isabella on the cheek. It was a fraction of a second too long, his hand resting on the small of her back with a familiarity that wasn't professional. Stellar speech, Bella, he said, his eyes lingering on her before flicking to me. Alex. Big night. Indeed, I said, taking a slow sip of water. My calm was a placid lake, and beneath its surface, monsters were stirring. I watched them, this beautiful, treacherous duo, and instead of the hot rage one might expect, I felt a chilling, absolute clarity. They had no idea that the quiet, dependable Alex had stopped being a partner and had started being a historian, documenting their every move. The final act of our partnership was about to begin, and I was holding all the scripts. The true betrayal didn't land with a scream, but with the sterile chill of a lawyer's office. 2 weeks after the gala, Isabella sat across from me, David by her side. We were in his conference room, not ours. Alex, Isabella began, her voice laced with a sorrow that didn't reach her eyes. This is so hard. But I think we've grown apart. The spark, it's gone. I said nothing. I just waited. David slid a thick document across the polished mahogany. Isabella has instructed me to begin divorce proceedings. As you know, Ether Solutions is a marital asset. We're seeking a 50-50 division of all shares and assets. There it was. Not just the end of our marriage, but the attempted theft of my life's work. She wanted to carve my creation in half and walk away with her peace, likely to start a new company with David, using my technology as their foundation. I see, I said, my voice quiet. 50%. After everything we built? Isabella had the audacity to look pained. It's only fair, Alex. I put my blood, sweat, and tears into that company too. My connections, my reputation. It's as much mine as it is yours. Your reputation, I repeated softly. Yes, you've been working very hard on that lately. David cut in, his tone slick and condescending. Now, Alex, let's keep this civil. We can do this the easy way, or we can do this the hard way. Discovery, depositions, it gets ugly. We have a very strong case. Isabella is the public face of the company. Many of our investors are loyal to her. The accomplice was clear. It wasn't just the affair, it was the conspiracy. My wife and my lawyer, working in tandem to hollow me out. They had exploited my trust, my focus on the technical side, believing I was oblivious to the world of contracts and power plays. I looked at the two of them, a united front against the quiet coder. I slowly pushed the papers back toward David. "I'll need my own counsel to review this," I said calmly. "But I'm sure we can all be reasonable." The smirk they exchanged was barely concealed. They thought they had won. They saw my calm as surrender. They had no idea it was the stillness before the avalanche. My revenge was not born of a single moment, but from 1,000 tiny fractures. It started 6 months ago with the same perfume I'd smelled at the gala. It was on her skin when she came home from working late with David. Then there were the phone calls she'd take in another room, her voice a hushed, intimate murmur. The emergency business trips that always seemed to coincide with David's travel. I'm a builder of systems. I understand data, evidence, and logic. Emotion could cloud judgment, but a server log never lies. I began my silent preparation. I installed a discreet, voice-activated recorder in the home office we shared, perfectly legal in our state as I was a part owner of the property. I created a hidden partition on our company's cloud server, syncing every email, every Slack message, every calendar entry from Isabella's and David's company accounts. My coding skills allowed me to write a simple script that forwarded all their communications to my secure, private server. The discoveries were a gut punch, delivered in cold, digital text. An email from David to Isabella: "Once we force him out, the IP is ours. The investors will follow you, not the code." A text message: "Can't wait for this to be over. I'm tired of pretending to admire his boring genius." A calendar invite for a client dinner at a romantic, secluded bistro, the same night I was troubleshooting a server crash alone at the office. I had it all. Recordings of them in my own home, laughing about how clueless I was, plotting the dilution of my shares, discussing how to frame my emotional instability to the board to push me out. I had the financial records showing David funneling company retainers into a separate account for their new venture. The stakes were my company, my dignity, and the truth of our 8 years together. The symbolic gesture was a single, encrypted USB drive I kept on my keychain. It contained the entire, damning chronology of their betrayal. It was my Excalibur, and I was waiting for the perfect moment to draw it. My power move was not at them, but around them. I called for an emergency board meeting. The attendees were myself, Isabella, David, in his capacity as corporate counsel, and Robert, our lead investor. The atmosphere was tense. Robert looked confused. Isabella looked annoyed. David looked smug. "Alex, what is this about?" Robert began. "We have a quarterly review next month." "I know, Robert," I said, my hands folded on the table. "But a matter of urgent fiduciary duty has come to my attention." I used their language. The language of business. I slid a single sheet of paper across the table to Robert. It was a summarized timeline, showing the dates, times, and amounts of company funds David had diverted to the secret account, juxtaposed with the dates of his and Isabella's business trips. David paled. "This is a lie. A desperate fabrication." Isabella stared at me, her eyes wide with shock. "Alex, what are you doing?" I ignored her, keeping my eyes locked on Robert. "I have the complete forensic audit and all supporting evidence ready for you and the full board. This includes recorded conversations between our counsel and my wife discussing their plan to seize company IP and defraud me of my shares." The room went silent. The power shift was tectonic. Robert, a hard-nosed businessman who valued the bottom line above all else, looked from the paper to David's panicked face, to Isabella's guilt-stricken one. He didn't need to see the rest. He knew truth when it was presented with such cold, unassailable precision. "David," Robert said, his voice like granite. "You're suspended from all duties effective immediately." "Isabella." I suggest you and Alex settle your personal matters before they sink this entire company. I had just cut the head off the snake without raising my voice. The easy way they had offered me was now a distant memory. They cornered me in my office an hour later. The facade was gone. You recorded us? Isabella shrieked, her beautiful face twisted in fury. You spied on me? That's illegal. You're a monster. It's legal in our own home, I replied, not looking up from my monitor. And I'm not the one who was plotting corporate espionage and fraud. David was pacing, his lawyerly composure shattered. You'll never get away with this, Alex. I'll have your recording thrown out. I'll sue you for defamation. I finally turned to face them. Go ahead. The emails, the texts, the financial transfers, they don't require a recording. They're all admissible. You weren't just cheating on me, Isabella. You were cheating the company. You were cheating our investors. The anger turned to manipulation. Isabella's eyes filled with manufactured tears. Alex, please. You have to understand. I was lonely. You were always at work, always with your code. David was just there. It was a mistake. I love you. We can fix this. I looked at the woman I had loved for a decade and felt nothing but a vast, empty silence. You don't get to say that to me. Not after what you and he planned. You didn't just want to leave me. You wanted to break me and take what I built. The begging started. Please, David implored, his voice shaking. My career, it'll be over. Just take the company. Let me walk away. I'll resign. Just don't release the evidence. It was too late for deals. I had already won. You both made a critical error, I said, my voice low and final. You mistook my focus for blindness. You mistook my decency for weakness. You thought you were the smartest people in the room. But you forgot one thing. I tapped my temple. I built the room. The realization dawned on them then, a horrifying, slow-motion collapse. They hadn't been playing a game of chance against an emotional husband. They had been playing chess against a grandmaster who had already called checkmate, and they were only just now noticing. The fallout was swift. Robert and the board forced David's immediate resignation. They voted to strip Isabella of her executive authority, placing her on a leave of absence pending the resolution of the divorce. The news rippled through the business community, but the narrative was controlled. It wasn't a salacious affair, it was a story of corporate misconduct and a breach of fiduciary duty. The investors, concerned about their money, sided with me, the stable, reliable founder. The most difficult conversation was with Isabella's parents, who had always been like my own. They came to my house, their faces etched with grief and shame. Alex, we are so sorry, her father said, his voice heavy. We had no idea. She's our daughter, but what she did. I know, I said. This isn't about you. You will always be welcome in my life. My own brother, who had never liked Isabella's flashy nature, simply clapped me on the shoulder. You were a lion pretending to be a lamb. I'm glad the lion finally woke up. I explained my silence to him later. I wasn't silent because I was weak. I was silent because I was building a case. Anger is a fire, it burns hot and then it's gone. What I needed was a weapon, and weapons are forged in cold, patient silence. The collapse was total and merciless. David was disbarred after the State Bar Association reviewed the evidence of his fraud and ethical violations. His legal career was over. He faced a series of lawsuits from the company and the investors he had attempted to defraud. Isabella's world crumbled around her. The entrepreneur of the year was now a pariah in the business circles she loved. Her reputation, the asset she valued most, was ash. The divorce proceedings were a formality. With the evidence of her conspiracy to dissipate marital assets and commit fraud, she was entitled to nothing from the company. She received a settlement based on our personal assets, a fraction of what she would have gotten, and was forced to sign an ironclad NDA. The mistress, in this case, was her own ambition and greed. She lost the husband who had adored her, the company she had helped build, her lover and co-conspirator, and the respect of everyone who knew the truth. She had tried to take half of everything, and she ended up with nothing but the consequences of her own actions. They say you should never screw over your business partner. But you should really never screw over your business partner if he's the one who built the entire digital infrastructure and knows how to use it. The quietest person in the room is often the one recording the minutes. If you appreciated this story of digital justice, make sure to comment and subscribe for more tales of those who fight back with evidence, not emotions.